Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is Lincoln, Man of Humanity in Wartime. This article was written by J.A. Edgerton. It says, "It is one of the anomalies of history that the thing which was considered during Abraham Lincoln's administration his chief source of weakness has become his greatest strength. His cabinet and generals complained bitterly of his numerous pardons. To them his inability to refuse requests was the one flaw in his character. To us it seems the brightest jewel in his crown. The world will not soon forget his service in preserving the Union and liberating a race, but even if it should, it could never forget his sentiment, with malice toward none, with charity for all. Men never yet have measured the conquering power of love. There is nothing so strong as meekness, nothing so enduring as mercy." Inasmuch as Lincoln embodied these principles, they will render his memory strong and enduring. The world will consider him mightier for having saved life than were all those who destroyed it. That his kindliness was more potent than his cannon, and that while his armies conquered the South and freed the slave, his humanity will be potent in conquering the race and liberating all nations. Sympathy wins men unawares, clemency is mightier than powder and ball, and the victories gained by forgiveness are permanent. Lincoln was an elemental being. There were no shams or artificialities about him. He was what he appeared to be, even as the oak or rock is what it appears to be. His first characteristic was love of truth. He was plain because plainness does not deceive. Having nothing to conceal, he was unaffected. He was willing to honor the handiwork of God by letting himself shine forth as God made him. He was unpretentious, for pretense would but have dimmed his luster. He did not accept mere authority, but dug to the original source of knowledge for himself. He thought much and read little, but what he did read was of the best and was thoroughly digested. He was so utterly logical that he had to be honest, for dishonesty is the most illogical thing in the universe. He was weak in a wrong position, but no man was stronger in the right. He made little profession of religion, but lived it. His second quality was love of man. He could not resist an appeal to his compassion, but he could be immovable when a question of principle was involved. Having made up his mind that a thing was right, no power on earth could budge him. Where no moral issue was at stake, no man was more pliable. His heart was tender, and he was easily moved to laughter or to tears. His sense of justice was strong, but his charity was stronger yet. Loyal to his friends, forgiving to his enemies, mighty in his wrath, but mightier still in his patience and forbearance, Abraham Lincoln was the best exponent of the teachings of the Nazarene that has appeared in our times. In December 1863, a lady called on President Lincoln in behalf of a Captain Ross, grandson of one whom she termed the greatest of American emancipators, placing emphasis on the word greatest. It appears that the grandfather, Captain Isaac Ross, freed all his own slaves and sent them to Liberia at great expense to himself. All this the lady recounted, drawing attention to the fact that Mr. Lincoln was only freeing other people's slaves. So far from being offended at the woman's invidious comparisons, the great war president evinced the most lively interest in the story, granted the request, and showed great good nature concerning the incident. General Augur, one in command of the defenses at Washington, caught a spy whom he regarded as a peculiarly obnoxious specimen of his tribe. There was no question of guilt, and quick work was made of a court-martial and conviction. The spy was to be hanged the next morning, and General Augur went to the War Department to have the papers approved. It happened that Lincoln and Stanton were both absent from the city, and Charles A. Dana was left in charge. He promptly signed the papers, and Augur and he congratulated each other that this one spy would trouble the Union cause no more. The next morning, Dana met Augur and asked about the execution. In a disgusted manner, the general said there had been no execution. Lincoln had reached home at midnight, and before he went to bed, the accused man's friends got around the president and secured a pardon. General Augur could never refer to the incident without showing anger. This story came from the great state of Minnesota, being reported in the Times Enterprise of February 17, 1915. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.